So we watched Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria, and that made me wonder, what is the most important aspect of fighting? Let's kick it off with speed. In a scientific way, speed is the distance and the time it takes for the punch to travel or the shot to travel. Is it really the most important aspect of fighting? Because in fighting, if you're still a beginner, there's something called telegraphing, and I'll explain to you with this demonstration. Just don't let me hit the pads. Easy, right? Same concept, just don't let me hit the pads. But yeah, that's basically the essence of telegraphing. What I did before, which is this, that was telegraphing. The telegraph was me pulling my arm back. The other punch, the lateral punch, which is not telegraphing, the jab, which is just from here, just straight there. You can see how much faster it is because it doesn't have more distance to travel. It actually has less because from here, just there, you know? The guy isn't trying to let me hit. This isn't scripted, yeah, you know? And this thing that we did, we actually got it from Michael Jai White when he was training prisoners. And that's how important speed is. That's how important not telegraphing your punches is, because it makes your punches less visible. Next, precision. Conor McGregor says a lot about precision, and he says that he targets the dome, he targets the solar plexus, and then he targets the liver. But there are other vital areas that you can practice as well. So how do you actually train precision? Just hit one pad with your combos. That's how you can practice your precision. But I would also add that precision is a lower on the scale of importance on the aspects of fighting. I would argue that speed is better than precision, okay? Although you can knock someone out, right? But the chance of knocking someone out is less because if you're telegraphing it, of course, people will see your punch and they will do what he did prior, which is dodge the punch, either slip, roll, or just don't be there. Because of that, I'd argue that speed is on top of precision more. Another aspect of fighting is footwork. Step in and step out. Why footwork is so important is because footwork decides the space. And spacing, we'll talk about that later on in the video. But footwork is important because it dictates whether you'll get hit or you won't get hit. Also dictates your power as well, which is why I will rank footwork maybe in the fifth most important aspects of fighting. And so how do you actually practice good footwork like Ilia Topuria does? You can see that Ilia Topuria, when he throws the hook two on Charles Oliveira, he was moving his feet right to the side. He was moving his feet to the side, and which is why he didn't get countered, because Charles was tried to step in, and then Ilia Topuria did the two on there. So that's an aspect of footwork, also an aspect of head movement. But yeah, so how do you actually practice good footwork? How I practice it is you go to the jab and then the pull back, and then jab straight and then you pull back, and then jab straight hook, then you pull back, and then jab straight hook straight. That's how I practice good footwork, which is just stepping in, stepping out, stepping in, stepping out, stepping in punches, stepping out punches. That's how I practice it when I was a beginner. The next point is spacing, and this is the most important aspect of fighting. Spacing is important because fighting is actually just controlling the space on where you'll hit your opponent. You can see this in the Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya fight, wherein Sean was always up close in here, never letting Israel Adesanya dictate the pace. And that's the keyword, dictate the pace. Spacing dictates the pace of the fight, which is why spacing, I'd argue, is the most important aspect of fighting. So how do you exactly control the space as a beginner? What I do, this is a technique that a lot of people, a lot of southpaws use, which is just put your hand out, and then when you're putting your hand out, you're controlling how much distance you have from your opponent. You're controlling the space in the middle. As Mighty Mouse would like to call it, you're controlling the void. So I go here, right? Just touching, and then I'd step in, go to a hook, or maybe a body shot. A technique I like to use, maybe you can implement that in your fights. Rhythm and cardio is, I'd argue, it's the same level as spacing, because you'll need to have a lot of cardio for fights. You can't just always rely on knockout power, rely on precision. You need to have a good pace, and good cardio comes from good pacing. That's why you look at Merab. He doesn't get tired whatsoever when he's wrestling. You know, he doesn't get tired. Like pacing yourself, right? Just maybe just throwing a jab, and then maybe a straight. Just don't always. Another tip with that is don't always be so forceful with your punches. Just relax. Just relax. Your cardio and your pacing will improve, not spacing. Anyways, yeah, that's the tip. And the last one is absolutely the least important, in my opinion, is knockout power for point. Yes, it's important, but not as important, because you can win by points, right? And yes, it's a benefit to have great knockout power, but it's not really that much required. You can see Nate Diaz, those people. So I'd rank power as below. So how do you actually have train for good power? You can train for good power by just imagining one shots of from to the pads with 100% power. Just imagine like 100%, like that. 100%. Always remember 100% power. Throw big shots like that, right? 100%. That's how you gain a lot of power. Also, that torque that Ilia Topuria does. He turns it all straight. I'm going to straight. He turns it all, right? He turns everything. Turn. And then that causes a lot of power. That's why he has a lot of knockout power. And that's the end of the video. Thank you.